This is a presentation about Addie Waits Hunton for my contribution project, activist in both suffragette and civil rights movement. She was born in 1866 in Norfolk, Virginia, and died in Brooklyn, New York in 1943. She married a fellow activist, Alphaeus Hunton, and gave birth to 4 children, 2 of whom died in early infancy and childhood. She got her high school education at the Boston Latin School in Boston, Massachusetts. And at this point, it was a very big thing to be able to go to high school. And she later on in her life attended 2 colleges, which just shows she was very, very determined to get a good education. Her first college that she graduated from was the Spencerian College of Commerce in Philadelphia, PA. She was actually the first African American woman to graduate from there and was the only African American in her class, from what I heard. Later on, after this, she went and taught for about a year before going into public and policy. She also attended the Kaiser Wilhelm University in Germany from around 1909 to 1910. I didn't see any information about her completing her studies, but I did see that she did take her children with her and came back to the United States to take care of her husband later on. Now, after her first stint in college, she became a teacher at Portsmouth, Virginia. She later became a principal and then a registrar and accountant at 2 different colleges, as you see here. This gave her a really good administrative and leadership background, in my opinion, for her later activism work. She also worked with the YWCA as their secretary in the year 1907. Part of her job, she toured the South and Midwest America, helped recruit people and helped get more information out and helped to organize more rallies and just organize to help the YWCA do what it wanted to do. She also worked with the NACW 1906 to 1910 and was one of their organizers. This was more of a boots on the ground, and she did a lot more in-person organizing and administrative organizing as well. She wrote a lot of articles as well talking about civil rights and the suffragettes. Her wartime work, she and 2 other African American women were employed to work with the segregated African American soldiers in World War I. She later published a book about her experiences with one of her co-workers in the year 1920 as well. She then later on began to work with the NAACP as a field secretary and helped to assist in the organization of the 1927 Fourth Pan-African Congress. And at this point, she also did a lot more hands-on organizing and administrative tasks as well. Some other things that she did, she wrote a biography of her husband after he died in the year 1916. He died of tuberculosis, and he was a fellow activist. She also wrote reports, and one of them was about the American occupation of Haiti in 1926, and she voiced her opinion against this occupation, calling it, she did not agree with it. Her husband died after battling tuberculosis for 2 years in 1916, and she herself died in 1943 from complications with diabetes in Brooklyn, New York. She was buried at the Cypress Hill Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York, and remains there to this day. Her children, both Eunice and Alphaeus, both became very intelligent and did a lot. Her daughter became a lawyer and Republican club member. Her son was a professor at Howard and wrote a book, as well as he was imprisoned for refusing to cooperate with the McCarthy Committee as well. Now, the women's suffrage in the 19th century, this was when it really began. One of the first meetings occurred in 1848, and a lot of the people that were there ended up forming 2 of the main organizations that was for the women's suffrage and organized on that behalf of the activism. Civil rights was active in many ways before this time, but it also began to gain more support. first Civil Rights Act was passed in 1866, even with the presidential veto. 14th Amendment was proclaimed law in 1868, making African Americans citizens of the United States. Women's suffrage in the 20s was when it became a little bit more militant because of this, in response to the slowness. Alice Paul, my favorite, formed the Congressional Union 1913, where they did mass rallies, marches, picketing, and actually picketed the White House, which they were the first to do so. The civil rights in the early 20th century was when in the 1919 the Red Summer occurred. 26 race riots, several hundred African Americans killed, and many more that we don't know about. In 1946, President Truman created the Committee on Civil Rights to find ways to better protect civil rights. Addie Hunton helped the civil rights by being a writer, an organizer, and outspoken activist for the civil rights. She also helped her husband, who was also very active in the civil rights movement as well. As for the suffragettes, she did about the same, and she helped champion their cause. She wrote the articles, helped with a lot of administration tasks, helped to get supporters, and spread the cause by articles and traveling the country. In conclusion, here we are my references. This is all the places I found my information. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for listening. Have a great one.